Good night, everyone. Johnson. I got it good. I got it good all the time. My name is Thomas J. Spritzer. I'm here to give a short news and word on tonight. I know the debate was Thursday. So the debate was Thursday, and they had Mr. President Joe Biden and former Donald President Trump. They had 51.27 million viewers was watching on CNN. But what I saw, it was a little rocky, but he finished strong. You know, he he is a good president. He made things happen. You know, he know the policy. He know the policy. He know how to write up the policy. So I think if if you're a president, you should know the policy. He was answering all the questions, even though it was slow, but he still knew what he was talking about and answering the question. Um, but former President Trump, he was avoiding questions, and he didn't know much about the policy. You know, President Bennett do love the American people. Now he wants to help them, especially when they're trying to get rid of certain policies. He always trying to find ways uh, to help to save certain policies for the American. I still think he can win. But if Mr. President Bennett Biden wants to step down, if he wants to step down, fine. But if he wants to stay in a race, fine. But if it gets severe, we have Kamala Harris, can step in, that she will be on standby. Because he done put in too much hard work and labor for this running for election. And so he know the policies, he know everything. He well experienced, well experienced, talk with knowledge. So yes, he said he didn't feel too good yesterday. That's understandable. So we'll see how he gonna go with the next debate and see how he gonna go. We have Kamala gonna be on standby. You know, so so and this is a short one too. When an army against you, when an army is against you, these are scriptures that you can read. This one here from Psalms 91. My God in whom I trust. I don't have the whole 91. I just pick out certain scriptures. Now, surely he will save you from the fowls of snare, from the deadly potassium, and he will cover you with his wings. And under his wing you shall find refuge. Now he's saying, Psalms 91 is a protection, a protection prayer, And so he said when he said God cover him with his feathers, and under his wing he find refuge. Because David was always running from Saul, running from his enemies, running from his son. But he know that God was watching over him. So he said trust in God as a protector and defender during your difficult time. So he said when you trust God in your difficult time, 1,000 may fall at your side. 10,000 at your right hand side, but it will not come near you. Trust in God as your protector and your defender during these difficult times. David had so much difficult time. He was waiting to get in position, and he had to deal with Saul being jealous, deal with his son, want to treat him like he the son. So David had so many enemies also, because, he was taking people's wives and stuff, but he said 1,000 may be at your right hand side, but 10,000 at your right side, but it will not come near you. David said it will not come near you. You know, that's why Saul ain't never killed David. He found David many times in that cage. But you know, God was right there watching over David because he had a purpose he had to fulfill. But he wasn't on that purpose yet. So God was protecting him until he put him on seat because God had promised that you're going to be a king. You know, and so assurance, you know, to believers that God's protection is so intensive that evil will not touch you. And so you know, none of them could harm David. You know, all the people that was plotting behind David, running behind David, they ain't never able to touch David and take him out. You know, and Saul was angry every time. You know, one time he saw David in a cave sleep. You know, but he still didn't touch David. He still didn't take David out. And he hunt David for David. Oh, I see he go over there and he go over there. He still wasn't able to kill him because whatever he plotted, you know, it didn't prosper because God was there watching him. You know, no harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. You know, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Now he's saying the promise that God is a refuge. You know, God was his refuge. You know, is for all the people of Israel and all who believe in Jesus. Now, order for us to get that protection, God don't just do it to anybody. He don't just do it just to be doing it. No, you have to be faithful to God. You have to follow his command. You know, it's a lot come with that. He don't just be your protector. You know, and so he a promise that God is his refuge is for all the people of Israel. You know, and all who believe in Jesus. You know, God given angels the authority. Remember, he said the angel, he commanded the angels to watch over you. So he give the angel authority to watch over you. So anything touch you, they can jump in and protect you. And they ain't gonna know what hit them. And that'll be the angels beating them up. You know, so angels have authority from God. You know, and so we're going to look at, you know, the thing is, you know, when you have an army against you. So we're going to look at Psalm 23, the 4th verse. Now, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff. You comfort me. You know, so David said, even in his dark valley, even in his dark days, even in that cage, he's saying God was with him. God riding his staff. It comfort him. You know, he did so much right because he said being in God comfort, being in God present comfort him. You know, even though he didn't see God or couldn't see God, you can still feel God's presence, that God is right there, protecting you, watching over you. You know, and so he said, with your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now, David could walk through a dark valley, you know, Rehab, even that. And he did. He bypassed many death, you know, and fearless, you know, because the Lord walked with him. Now, see, he had bypassed so much death, so much attack, and none of them didn't touch him. Just like the song said, it could not come near him. Saul always find him and found him sleep and found him in the cage, but he did not touch David. He did not touch that. It said he can't come near you. You know, he said he was walking when you walk by God, walk with God. He said, because the Lord walked with me. David had lack of fear and he had confidence in God. You remember when he was a little boy? He had so much confidence in God. He went out there and braced up to that giant and knocked that giant out. He know he couldn't do that on his own. He did that with the grace of God by having confidence in God. That he know when you got confidence in God, you know you can do it. You know you can do it. And so many people coming against me. You coming against God. So many people was coming against David, but they was coming against God. And they didn't know God was fighting David. Remember, David wrote that letter, and God had said he was worrying about, God finally made him king. And he worrying about, nobody don't know I'm king. All they know he was under Saul. So God said, don't worry about that. I'm about to make your name great. I'm about to make your name great. All of them gonna know that you're the king. And so God had told him, wherever you had went, I was there. And he probably didn't know God everywhere he went. God was right there watching him because he have not been on his purpose yet. Long as you're on your purpose, God was watching him, protecting him. That's why every time Saul came after, every time his enemy came after, every time his son was coming after, they could not touch David because David had angels around him. He had God watching him. They had to get through that. David never had got hurt. Never had got hurt. Remember that lady husband. He was being rude and everything. He and so he was being rude to David. But guess what happened to him? He dropped dead. And David noticed. David said, that what he get messing with me. So he knew God was his defender. Because he had not been the king yet. Long as he wasn't the king yet that God promised him, God was watching over him. So he had a lot of time on his hands to write. He said 1,000 at his side, and 10,000 at his right side, but it could not come near him. It could not come near him. No harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your way. So David know God had his angels around him. For him to write this here, he know angel was around him, protecting him. And them angels were protecting him for them whole 20 years. God had them angels protecting him the whole 20 years. And so I read Psalms 91 and 23 every night or sometime in the morning too. You read it. You have to be praised up. You have to fast. Because in a time like this here, you have to read God's word. All for God to be right there by you. He said God walked with him. He said God walked with him. He said he said going through that dark valley. Going through that dark valley, David had lack of fear because he always had confidence in God. He said because the Lord walked with him. Walk with him when he going through that dark valley. He said God was with him. But he was running in that cave, sleeping in that cage like that, dark as hell. He said God was with him. So he always was praying. He always was praying, and he was connected with God since he was a child. You remember God chose him as a child. He didn't wait till he get grown to be chosen. God chose him as a child among all his 10 brothers. God chose him. And so that's all I have for you today. And we also talked about the debate they had Thursday night. You had the President Joe Biden and the former President Trump. And they asked many questions. You know, it was a slow pace, but he still did good with answering all the questions. You know, and he know the policies. You know, so he know exactly what he was talking about. He wasn't talking out his head. You know, so um, if he feel he wants to stay in the race, fine. If he want to step down, fine. We have a standby. You know, Kamala Harris. She can step in whenever Joe Biden wants to step down. You know, so that's all I have for you tonight. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all on the next video.